You gonna tell everybody?
Yes.
294?
294, yeah.
I got approval for the deal.
Mazal tov. Mazal tov. Wow, it's unbelievable. How long?
1 year plus. Yeah.
1 year plus. Wow, Chash. First one ever from Malaysia,
Yes.
as far as I know.
Russia.
Oh, you must be so happy, Baruch.
Yes.
And your wife, when did you get the letter?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, fine.
Yeah. My wife's in
You must be so happy, and the kids.
the
Happy birthday. It's like a birthday, someone.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Okay, the rest will be smooth sailing, hopefully. Excellent. Just get the door for us, Stephen. Amazing. Wow. So now you really have to start learning Hebrew.
Oh yeah. I'm learning.
I know, but even more.
During the holiday, I'll ask my children to teach me.
That's right. You give them prizes, they'll teach you. You teach them Torah, they'll teach you Hebrew. Be'ezrat Hashem. Yeah, we need both books. We need the Zmanim and the... Now we're looking at page 294. Okay? Areinu? We looked at it last time. When did we say this? Not too long ago. 17th days of Tammuz. 17th of Tammuz. Just 3 weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago. Aneinu, answer us, Lord. Answer us on our fast day, for we are in a great distress. There's two types of distress. It could be objective or it could be subjective. We fast on both. Objective distress here is that the temple was destroyed and all the bad things that happened to the Jewish people on all the 4 fast days. We're not going to repeat now. But we know it on Tisha B'Av. So of course Tisha B'Av is a fast day. We mentioned that on the other fast days, Ashkenazi custom is we don't say it in the morning because maybe you'll break your fast. It says, answer us on our fast day. So we have to be fasting. If we're not fasting, you can't say that. It's our fast day. So we're machmir and we only say it in the afternoon. By the afternoon, by mincha time, you've made it this far. We know that you haven't had breakfast, you haven't had lunch, so you're ready for mincha and you can say it's our fast day. But who knows? The interesting thing is the Tisha B'Av, you're fasting already from the night before. You're fasting for a long time. Ma'ariv also. So we wait. There's still the Ashkenazi custom. We only say this at mincha time. But the Sephardic custom, they're not careful about that. They say in Shachri too. And on Tisha B'Av, they say it at Ma'ariv too. All 3 prayers, they add in the Aneinu. Into which section of the Amidah? What's it called? Nope. You're looking at the wrong thing, Zachariah. It's a good thing I asked. I'm looking at 294. We add the Aneinu into the Shema Tefillah on all fast days at Mincha time. And Sephardim do it Shachri, Mincha, and Mariv. Now, why were you confused? Because you're on your phone. But why were you really confused? Because there is something else that we add in addition, only on Tisha B'Av. If you turn your page back, page 292 and 293, you'll see it there. Also in between 2 lines, set off in a different font and a different size, at least. And it says here on Tisha B'Av, we include the Nache. So let's open up our book Zmanim and see when we add this in. As you can see, it's here in Mincha. The sages instituted. Who can read for us? Chananel. We're on page 210 in the book of Zmanim now. Zechariah, the book of Zmanim, page 210, the 2nd paragraph. The sages instituted. You got it, Zechariah?
Yeah, it says the sages instituted that wants to add the Menachem prayer to the bracha of Bnei Yerushalayim and Amidah. Whenever a name is recited, the conclusion of the bracha is changed as well, becoming Menachem Sion, the Binyan, the Yerushalayim. Comfort Zion of the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, Sephardic version, or Menachem Sion, Uvonei Yerushalayim, who comforts Zion and rebuilds Jerusalem, Ashkenazi Menachem version. The text of
Stop there for a second. So when do we say the Nachem?
It says every time we say a name, but that's not.
So the question is, Ashkenazim only say Aneinu at Mincha, like I showed you. And so we say Nachem at Mincha. What about the Sephardim? They say Aneinu at all three prayers. Do they say Nachem at all three prayers? I'd assume so. I don't know. Does anybody have a Sephardic siddur? Who here prays Sephardic? Do you have a siddur? Can you bring it and we'll see? Because we have to know what you do. I don't know what the custom is. Go bring your siddur and we'll see if they have Nachem in Mariv, Shachrit for Tisha B'Av. Okay, what is Nachem? Let's take a look at the text. Let's open up our Siddur now and look at the Nachem together on page 292. Now you got the place. Read for us, Yosef. Console, O Lord our God. You see where we're on page 292, underneath the line? Console, O Lord our God, the mourners of Zion.
The mourners of Zion and the mourners of Jerusalem and the city that is in sorrow, laid waste, scorned and desolate, that grieves for the loss of its children, that is laid waste of its dwellings, robbed of its glory, desolate without inhabitants. She sits with her head covered like a barren, childless woman. Legions have devoured, idolaters have taken possession of her. They have put your people Israel to the sword and deliberately killed the devoted followers of the Most High. Therefore Zion weeps bitterly, and Jerusalem raises her voice. My heart weeps for those they killed. I am in anguish for those they killed. For you, O Hashem, consume it with fire, and with fire you will rebuild it in the future, as is said. And I myself will be a wall of fire around it, says Hashem, and I will be its glory with it. Blessed are you, Hashem, console Zion and rebuild Jerusalem.
Yafeh. I mean, it's sad. It's so sad. It's so beautiful, so poetic, so stark. What's the ending? How should the ending be? It's right where it says on page above the line. The regular one is Bonei Yerushalayim. Baruch Hashem Bonei Yerushalayim. What do we say on Tisha B'Av? Menachem Tzion Uvonei Yerushalayim. You see that? We add in two words. We don't just say Bonei Yerushalayim. We say first we add in the concept of Nachem. Nachem Tzion. What does Nachem mean? Console. What's my name? Menachem. Console. That's right. Shalom Dor. Yes. It doesn't have it in Shachrit. It has Aneinu at Shachrit, but it doesn't have Nachem at Shachrit. And it doesn't have it at Mincha either. Why doesn't it have it at Mincha? This is a strange Siddur. Where's the special version of Nachem for Tisha B'Av? I'm sure it doesn't have it at Marav either. If it doesn't have it Shachrit at Mincha, your Siddur is missing something, young man. The people at Shavei Yisrael, they probably thought, we're going to print a special Siddur for Tisha B'Av. And that's where we won't be using the regular Siddur. It must be that's why they're doing it, because otherwise they're missing out. They're missing out. I'm looking in the back to see if they have it in the back maybe, but seems to be Seems to be missing. It says here, Yom. There's something for the fast days. Slichot. You're going to have to use a different siddur for mincha, and you don't help us, knowing you brought your Sephardi siddur?
No,
Ashkenazi siddur. You need some glue, also. Your siddur is coming apart. Boker Tov, you're going to bring your Sephardi siddur?
Yes.
Great. You'll only find it in Mincha. It's Ashkenazi Siddur. Menachem Tzion Uvanei Yerushalayim.
Yeah, I was being told that in somebody that read this in Shakari.
In Shacharit, you've seen it before?
No, I was being told by a friend that
You're told by a friend. Yeah, makes sense. If you're saying Aneinu, you should say Nachem. Maybe even in Mariv. There's different customs, but it's strange they don't have Nachem at all in Hananel's Siddur. You have it at Mincha, right? All right. There is a special version. Who can tell me, when else do we say the bracha? Bonei Yerushalayim.
for the Amazon.
Birkat Hamazon. The Ashkenazi version is Bonei Berachama Yerushalayim. Amen. But we added one word, but essentially it's Bonei Yerushalayim. It's fascinating. There is in the Talmud and in some Sidurim a custom that when someone's mourning, sitting Shiva, for 7 days, you're allowed to eat, you have to eat. Whenever you have a meal, you say Birkat Hamazon. You change the Birkat Hamazon as well. You add in this idea of consolation into the bracha Bonei Yerushalayim. We say Menachem Tzion Uvanei Yerushalayim, just like we say on Tisha B'Av. Many Sidurim don't have it. Many people don't do it. But there is such a custom. Menachem Tzion Uvanei Yerushalayim. It's a little bit. It's an interesting bracha. Today's the day we're mourning. When's the day for consolation? When do we console ourselves, or when can we expect consolation?
The temple's rebuilt?
When the temple's rebuilt.
Shabbat.
Shabbat. Why do you say Shabbat?
Because you must have joy in Shabbat.
We have to have joy in Shabbat. More than that. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for. What is the special name of the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av, which we just had? What was it called? Shabbat Chazon. Shabbat Chazon, because that's the beginning of the Haftarah, Chazon Yeshayahu Ben Amos, first chapter of Yeshayahu. What's the name of the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av? It's called Shabbat Nachamu. Nechama. Nechama is consolation. It's called the Shabbat of consolation. After Tisha B'Av, not only the first Shabbat is called Shabbat Nachamu, this begins a series. Before Tisha B'Av, we had 3 special haftarot. The 3 parshot all had to do with the destruction. Yirmiyahu, and Yeshayahu, the last one. But you have a different siddur, a better one. Let me see.
New one.
Kol Yaakov with your name on it. Wow. Well done. Nice. Okay. Nusach Aram Tzova. Okay. Is that what you pray? Is that what you use? The Syrian, Syrian Jews. Let's see what they have. In Shacharit, they have We have nothing except Aneinu. And Shachrit, they don't have it. At Mincha, they do. I'm sure. I don't even have to check, but it's only yours. Shavei Israel made a mistake in their Situr. But in Mincha, it is not here either. How could it not be here? Well then, maybe they didn't make a mistake. Maybe there's a variant custom that doesn't say Menachem in the Shmona Esrei. Could be they only say it in Birkat Hamazon. Birkat Hamazon you're not supposed to eat on Tisha B'Av. So you can't really say it. I don't see any Nachem. It's a strange thing. Let's see if they have it in the back. Maybe if they have it in the back. How come they don't have it in the regular prayer service for Tisha B'Av? Odd. They have the Slichot, the fast days. They don't have it here either.
I have for Mincha.
In your Ashkenazi, of course, yeah. But it's strange. They don't have Nachem. Let's see. It's strange. Maybe there's a custom. I mean, Rabbi Melamed said Sfardim recite it. They even have a different version. It says Menachem Tzion Bevinyan Yerushalayim. They don't just add two words. They actually change the conjugation of the words Bevinyan. So maybe there is a different custom than what Rabbi Melamed says. Some Sfardim don't say Nachem at all. A little strange. Let's see the third Siddur. Let me find it, please. Okay, this is Germesian edition. Rabbi Binyamin Gohari. Let's see. In Shacharit. They have Aneinu, but they don't have Menachem. And let's see, in Mincha, they have Aneinu. And they have Menachem. Okay. They have Menachem at Mincha. Just like the Ashkenazim do. As it should be done. I don't know why they don't have in the other Sidurim. But and it doesn't have it at Ma'ariv either. Yeah, so this is it has it at Mincha. So Mincha, I think it's pretty universal, even in Sephardi, but apparently there's some Sephardi communities that don't say Nachem at all. Very strange. But maybe that's the Syrian synagogue, and maybe Shavei Israel followed the Syrian community, and they don't have Nachem at all, not at Mincha. Even not at Mincha.
Do we observe the same customs for Tisha B'Av that we would observe before we were living in Yerushalayim? Because it feels like it's hard to mourn with the same intensity that like Jews who didn't even have access to come to Jerusalem.
Excellent. Good question. And the question gets even stronger when we read the text one more time. What are we really saying? Let's see how Rabbi Melamed phrases the question. We'll go back to the book of Zmanim. Go back to the book of Zmanim, page 210. And he says the text of Menachem contains, Stephen, you want to read it for me, or in the middle of page 210? The text of Menachem, first word on the line is Menachem. It's italicized.
The text of Menachem contains phrases that seemingly do not apply to modern-day Jerusalem life. The city, they grieve for the loss of his children, desolate without inhabitants. She sits with her head covered like a barren, childless woman. Legion had devoured her, idolaters have taken possession of her.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Saying that. Can we say that in our prayers? Why not? What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, I guess like the Muslims control the Temple Mount. They're not idolaters.
Okay. What else?
It's not desolate without inhabitants. There's Jews living all around.
Here we are. The children are in Jerusalem. Why can't we say that she's barren without her children? It's the biggest city in Israel. Most populated city in Israel is Jerusalem. How can we say that Jerusalem is barren and desolate? It's being rebuilt. And she sits and weeps with her head covered like a barren, childless woman. That maybe was true once. Legions have devoured her. Okay, but we reconquered it. Now there's a Jewish state is in charge of Jerusalem. Idolaters have taken possession of her. The Israeli state is maybe, you could say they're idolaters, but not really either. It's a Jewish state. So what do? This was said for many years. For 1,000 years, 1,500 years. 2,000, almost 1,948, 52 years since the year 70, when Jerusalem was taken over by the Romans. And then the Byzantines, who were actually idolaters, the Christian church. So, we've been saying this text for so long, but now it's no longer true. What do? So he says, go ahead, Stephen. However,
it is difficult for us to change the formulation that the sages instituted. In addition, unfortunately, this language can still apply to the Temple Mount. Furthermore, compared to what Jerusalem should be, the capital of the world, perfect in beauty, joy of all the earth, Acre 250, it is indeed considered destroyed and desolate.
okay, so there's actually, as you can see in the footnote, there is a lot of discussion among the rabbis nowadays in the last 56 years since we reconquered Jerusalem and the Temple Mount in 1967, whether or not we can say this Menachem anymore when Jerusalem is once again inhabited and being rebuilt. Some say we don't change the language of the tefillot. The tefillot are instituted by sages. The sages from the period 0 to 500. Every word of theirs is gold. Who are we to change it? So what do? We interpret. So now when you say these words, don't think about the city of Jerusalem, think about the Temple Mount. Temple Mount is still desolate. Temple Mount, still we don't have control. Temple Mount, we don't have lots of Jews going. There's maybe more and more every year, but still, that's one interpretation. Other rabbis say, sorry, we do have the power. And we should change the language of this paragraph. I'm not changing the Amidah. This small addition for Tisha B'Av can and should be changed. Some people rewrote the whole thing. And it focuses on the Beit HaMikdash, and it says how it used to be desolate and now it's being rebuilt. One of my Rosh Yeshivas said, just change the tense, the conjugation. Keep all the same words, but just instead of saying in the present tense, say it in the past tense. In the past tense, it was desolate. It was like a woman, childless, barren, crying for her children. It was. So as long as you don't want to be saying something not true. So you have to make sure to change it in some way. But other rabbis, like Rabbi Melamed, says you keep the text as it is, and you just think, and you interpret it differently, and that's good enough. I think we should do some change. even if I'm careful about changing the text in general, the change of conjugation is not a big deal. It's just, the formulation of the word, it's not actually changing the prayers. If you look at the bottom, in the footnote 119, he says, what if you forget? Look at footnote 19. You see at the bottom, Hananel? One who forgets to recite Menachem in its proper place should recite it in the bracha of Avodah, where it relates to the temple service. This is fascinating. Usually we don't add anything into the blessing of Avodah. We add the Yalav Yavo on festivals, and it's still relevant. So this is an interesting halakha. If you forget Menachem in Bonei Yerushalayim, you could say it in Ritzei. In Ritzei. The Avodah is the bracha. It starts with Ritzei. It ends with a Machzir Shechinato L'Tzion. It's all about Hashem's divine presence returning to us in Jerusalem and restoring the temple service. So therefore, this prayer about consolation for Jerusalem and the temple is appropriate in that bracha too. So if you forget it in the proper place, you have a second chance. If one forgets to insert it there as well, one should recite it in Elokai Nitzor. What's Elokai Nitzor? What's Elokai Nitzor? When do we say Elokai Nitzor Leshoni Meira? Anybody know the phrase in Hebrew? You guys are praying in English, some of you. What's Elokai? Save my lips from evil. Now you know what I'm saying. It's at the end of the Amidah. After we finish all 19 blessings, essentially, there's a custom to recite this beautiful prayer. Elokai, my God, save my lips from speaking evil. In there, essentially, the Amidah is over. And so you can add in other things much more easily. And so you can add the Menachem there if you didn't say it. And option number 1 is the bracha about Yerushalayim. Option number 2, the bracha about the temple service. And option number 3 is, after the 19 blessings are finished and you're just saying the Elokai Nitzor, you can add it in there. If one remembers only after completing the entire Amidah, let's say you already took your 3 steps back, he should not repeat the Amidah in order to recite the Menachem. You missed your once-a-year opportunity to say this prayer. If you missed it, you missed it. You don't have to, it doesn't invalidate the Shemona Esrei, but you weren't quick enough, and you lose the opportunity. You don't repeat the Shemona Esrei. Sometimes, right, if you forget Yalav Yavo, you have to repeat. It's not kosher without it. Here, the prayer is kosher without it. We just, if you miss it, you miss it. The last paragraph says the custom of North African Jews is to recite Menachem only at Mincha, as Ashkenazim do. That's what we saw in Yisrael's Sidur. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu writes in Hilchot Chagim that this is the normative Sephardic custom. That's why I was so surprised by the other Sidurim. But apparently, maybe the Syrians don't say Menachem at all. Strange. The custom of the Kabbalists of Yeshivat HaMekubalim in Beit El is to recite Menachem even at Shacharit. And Mariv I've never heard of. I don't know, so maybe nobody says is it Mariv. Some say the Menachem twice, not only once a year, but twice, Mishachrit and Mincha. So far, so good? So now, you have to be ready and aware to say 2 additions to the Shemona Esrei. What are the 2 passages we add to the Shemona Esrei? Aneinu and Menachem. Very good. Answer us, which is standard for every fast day, and Menachem, which is unique to Tisha B'Av. Good? Clear? Questions, comments?
Rabbi, I saw, I can't remember which book. There's one keynote is after this prayer of Menachem, they have the insert for the Holocaust.
In the Amidah? No.
After Menachem, after they say Menachem, there's a prayer for Holocaust. No? What is that?
No. I think you're not remembering correctly. What you do have, if you look on page 294 and 295 in the Siddur, where we say Aneinu in Shomea Tefillah, it says that in times of drought in Eretz Yisrael, say and answer us on page 186. There are other things that are get added in to the Shomea Tefillah prayer. So you can add something, a prayer when we need rain. But that's in many Siddurim, you have that standardized. Here they put it off a little bit afterwards. But I don't know of anything about the Holocaust. That doesn't make sense to me. What are you praying for now in the middle of Shemon Esrei about the Holocaust? I don't know. You're misremembering. You're not. That's in the Kinot.
Yeah.
Kinot. We saw it yesterday. I showed you that people add Kinot for the Holocaust, but that's not in the Amidah. That's not in the Amidah. That's not in the regular prayer service. After the regular prayer service, after the Shemon Esrei, we sit on the floor and recite the Kinot for all the tragedies which befell the Jewish people. Who can tell me when we had a temple? Period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Yeah. So when do we have a temple that we have to talk about the destruction of the temple and what happened to it? In the Kinot. So we have, of course, descriptions of and dramatizations of the second temple destruction with the Romans, right? And Titus, and Bar Kamsa, Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai going out to meet Vespasian. All these stories that we read, some of them, in previous classes. Of course, we have the description of the end of the first temple as well. The first temple was destroyed by who? Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king. That's right. Not only was the first temple destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar, but we even have to talk about the destruction of what destruction happened before Jerusalem was destroyed.
Israel.
The kingdom of Israel. That's right, led by the 10 tribes. Right, it was conquered by who?
Assyria.
The Assyrian. What was the capital city of Judea? Was Jerusalem. What was the capital city of Israel? Shomron. We spoke about it yesterday. We said that there's even a kina which gives them nicknames. Jerusalem is nicknamed Oholivama, and Shomron is nicknamed Ohola. Comes from the word tent. They both come from the word tent. Was there another temple or sanctuary the Jewish people had in another era? Not the first temple or the second temple. The Mishkan. Right? It was called as Ohel Moed. Ohel Moed, in the desert, when the Jewish people came out. They built the tabernacle, it's called, right? The Mishkan. And what happens after the Jewish people enter the land of Israel? Yeah.
It comes to Shiloh.
Exactly. So just before, for hundreds of years here, the Mishkan was in Shiloh. Shiloh is the name of a town in Binyamin, not far from Jerusalem. Just to give you a rough idea. And there, did they have the Mishkan, the same Mishkan that they had in the desert? For hundreds of years, for 40 years in the desert, they had the Mishkan. They came to the land of Israel. They used the Mishkan for a while, but after they chose, it moved from one place to the other place with Yoshua. And then they chose to make, probably it was in Shechem for a while, as that was the center, before Shomron became the center of the kingdom of Israel, the center of the entire country was Shechem. Shechem is in the pretty much central area of the country of Israel. But then they moved, after a while, moved to Shiloh. And in Shiloh, they had similar structure to the Mishkan, but a little different. In the Mishkan, they had beams, but the walls were made out of wood, and on top they had textiles, right? Like wool, woven textiles, skins also. In Shiloh, they already made the walls out of stone. They built a structure, and yet it was still temporary, and it had on its covering the textiles and the skins, the wool and the skins. So sort of half permanent, built up with stones, and half still tent-like. By the way, you can go visit the site of Shiloh. Now there's a modern day settlement called Shiloh, and they found archaeological evidence of the original Shiloh, which for hundreds of years it housed the Kodesh HaKodashim with the Aron Kodesh and all those golden vessels. Of course, when they built the temple in Jerusalem, they dismantled the temple in Shiloh, and everybody came. That was the idea, to unite the Jewish people surrounding Jerusalem. King David and Solomon built the temple, right? So, but Shiloh was the center for a couple hundred years.
How long did the Philistines take the ark?
Just for a couple of years, the way it's described in the book of Shmuel. The Philistines, and there's also probably there's two Aronot Kodesh. There were two, one that traveled with them and went out to war, and one that stayed in the Mishkan. So Mishkan Shiloh. We have some former students of ours who are in this class. They live in Shiloh. You go visit them, and you can go. It's a big tourist site. They have a movie, and they have an ancient olive press, just like we saw in the Golan. They have an ancient olive press in Shiloh as well, and you can learn how to do the ancient crafts. It's a whole big tourist site. It's amazing. They have a reconstruction of the Mishkan Shiloh. As a matter of fact, they also have a reconstruction where tourists come, and there's a movie and everything. They also have, it's a town. The town of Shiloh is where people live. By the way, they found, not only what part of the archaeological evidence they found is that the hills around this central place were filled with bones of only kosher animals. People would come and bring korbanot. They'd have meals on the hills within sight of the place. That's the rules, that you have to eat the korban within sight. In Jerusalem, of course, we had walls, had to be within the Jerusalem walls. But in Shiloh, we found tons and tons of animal bones. Only kosher animals. So we know that this is the site of the ancient Shiloh. But Shiloh nowadays, it's a big city. Not so big, but it must be 1,000 families. Something like that, or a couple hundred families. Of course, where do they pray? They pray in the Beit Knesset. You know how they build the Beit Knesset? Modeled after the Mishkan. It looks like a Mishkan when you enter it. It has the dimensions of the Mishkan. And that long rectangular shape that we've recognized from when we studied the Torah. So Shiloh, it's a very cool place. So it says in the Talmud Yerushalmi that part of being a mourner is that we get confused. When you're mourning, you don't know what's right, up, down, right, left. What day is it today? Your whole schedule gets thrown off, and your mind is not at ease, at peace, so you can't know. So in the Kinot, which we learned yesterday, some of them, right? We did some excerpts yesterday. In the Kinot, you'll find one poem, a Kina, an individual Kina is a lament. In one lament, you'll find a description of the Second Temple. And then you'll find a description of Jerusalem being destroyed. And then the next paragraph, you'll find a description of the tabernacle when we came out of Egypt. And then you'll find a description of the destruction of the kingdom of Israel. All of our history sort of flows into one, because that's the nature of being in mourning, is that everything is a jumble. We're all confused. Not only that, as we mentioned yesterday as well, there's other events in history that happened here and here and here throughout medieval times. The rest of our 2,000 of years since the destruction of the temple, 1952 years, since year 70. Make the calculation. 953 years already since year 70, 1953. It's 2023. So, no, how many years is that? What's 2023 minus 70? It'll be, it's 1953. I think it's correct, yeah. So in all those years, many other things have calamities have befallen the Jewish people, and events which some part of the scattered people, Jewish people, some in this country in Europe, some in that country in Europe, some in other places, and we mention all of them. So all of Jewish history is discussed in the book of Kinot. Interesting. Okay, Shalom, Boker Tov. Baruch Hashem, מצוין. Mazal Tov Stephen Chan and his family. He got permission to do Gior. זכריה. מגיע נתנאל, אבל אני אעשה זמן. It's coffee, so he stays awake.
Set up. Have you found your self? Don't give up. Don't give a shit. Rabbi says there's no despair.
All right. Bottom of page 210. This is confusing, right? We know Tisha B'Av is the day of national mourning. So it's a sad day. We sit on the floor. We don't eat, we don't drink, and we cry. And we read these horrible stories and these poems, which make us cry even more. And then there's a twist. What's the twist? Tisha B'Av is called a festival. A festival?
I would say Yom Kippur, yeah, but
Yom Kippur, we say maybe you are happy on Yom Kippur because you get forgiven. But today's the day of destruction. What's going on here? So take a look. Bottom, page 210. Yosef, you read it for us. One does not recite.
one does not recite Tachanun on Tisha B'Av or at Mincha on the eve of Tisha B'Av, because Tisha B'Av is called a Moed, as it says, he has proclaimed a set time against me. Eicha 150. The word Moed means a set time, and it is also used to mean holiday. In other words, if we are worthy, it will be a holiday. If not, it will be a set time of mourning.
Interesting. It has, in some ways, the elements of being a holiday. Maybe it has the potential for a holiday, because in the future, we know that when the temple is restored, all the fast days will turn into happy days. So specifically, though, there is a word in the book of Eicha which says, Kara alai moed. He has proclaimed a set time for me. And so because of that, we're going to start seeing some of the customs where even on Tisha B'Av itself, we sort of have hope for the future. Really, the time for Nechama is after Tisha B'Av. The Shabbat after Tisha B'Av, we start saying 7 haftarot of consolation. We had 3 haftarat, the 3 weeks before Tisha B'Av. 3 haftarot where it was all about the destruction, the impending doom. And then after Tisha B'Av, our sages instituted 7 weeks. Each Shabbat we have a special haftarah that specifically stresses, emphasizes consolation. So the time for consolation is coming. We all know that. There's even a party day, which we don't say Tachnun in some communities. Which party day happens after Tisha B'Av? Tu B'Av. What day is Tu B'Av?
15th.
Tet Vav. Just like Tu B'Shvat. What day is Tu B'Shvat? 15th of Shvat. What day is Tu B'Av? 15th of Av. So on the 9th of Av we have a fast day. Already on the 15th we have a little bit of a holiday. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's some customs that people keep on Tu B'Av. But the bottom line is we know that there's going to be a period of consolation. We spoke about that even though the temple was destroyed, we have to go on with life. We have to have hope for the future. It's fascinating. Even on Tisha B'Av itself, we speak a little bit about consolation. Hence, we added in a paragraph where we ask God, Menachem, console us. And we change the language of the text, not only Bonei Yerushalayim, but Menachem, Tzion, Bonei Yerushalayim. Console Zion and rebuild Jerusalem. We do speak about consolation a little bit on Tisha B'Av, but you will notice, when do we add Menachem? According to most communities, only in Mincha. The latter half of Tisha B'Av, we start speaking about consolation already. And that's why that the concept of consolation is not foreign totally. Also, it's connected to this idea that Tisha B'Av itself is called a holiday. If it's a holiday, it has the potential of a holiday, even if it's currently not a fast day. And so we don't say Tachnun, Shachrit, or Mincha, we don't say Tachnun. Strange. We say Kinot. We mourn, but on the other hand, we sort of leave the door open for consolation to come. And Tachnun is usually only associated with days which are not festive, and there is a little element of festivity here, at least in potential. So the custom is we don't say Tachnun. Okay? Let's continue reading some of the laws of Tisha B'Av. And we'll talk more about Tu B'Av a little bit later. We're on page 211 now. Zachariah. We're going to meet at 12:15 on the dot. Maybe even 12:10. Yeah, we'll walk outside because there'll still be people here, I think, at 12:10. And it'll be short. I'll squeeze you in because somebody else is coming to learn with me at that time, but we'll do it. Okay? Are you ready to read for us, Zachariah?
Yeah, we have 17.
Page 211. First paragraph, wherein the Kohanim recite.
Where the Kohanim recite Birkat Kohanim daily at Shacharit, custom of some congregations that they do not do so on Tisha B'Av, as it says, and when you lift up your hands, I will turn my eyes away from you. This is similar to the halacha that a Kohen who is in mourning does not recite Birkat Kohanim because he is forlorn, and therefore unable to bless the congregants with peace. Those Ashkenazim and some Sephardim follow this custom in other communities where Birkat Kohanim is generally recited. The Kohanim do recite it at Shacharit on Tisha B'Av. This is the custom of the Kabbalists of Yerushalayim. Each community should continue following its own custom. According to all customs in communities where Birkat Kohanim is recited daily, the Kohanim recited at Mincha on Tisha B'Av when the congregation prays Mincha in the late afternoon. On Tisha B'Av, we pray like mourners do, patiently in a soft voice and without elaborate melodies.
Wow, so Birkat Kohanim is a mitzvah from the Torah. Most people assume that the Kohanim gets called up and he's got to bless every day. So they got to do the mitzvah every day, even on Tisha B'Av. But what other mitzvah do we not do in the same way? We have to do it, but we do it a little differently. On Tisha B'Av. What mitzvah do we do differently on Tisha B'Av? Tefillin. We have to put on tefillin every day of the year, except for Shabbat and Yom Tov. Tisha B'Av is a regular day. It's a little bit, it's called a festival, but not currently, it's not an active festival. So we have to put on our tefillin. When do we put on our tefillin on Tisha B'Av? At Mincha. At Mincha. Same thing, the same trick is pulled in most communities for Birkat Kohanim. Talit also, but Birkat Kohanim is what we're talking about here. Birkat Kohanim, Kohanim have to bless the people, but then instead of doing it in the morning, first thing, they do it in the afternoon. In the afternoon, we have our talit on anyways, so they can cover themselves, we can cover ourselves, nice. So it gets pushed off to Mincha, yes?
Okay, so this is that some congregations have the minhag to not say it, and they quote, and it's quoted like Yeshayahu chapter 1, verse 15.
Yeah.
Isn't there's a problem here though, in that the prophets are not allowed to take away from the Torah, and this is a commandment from the Torah.
That's why I stressed that we do it at Mincha instead. In other words, we're still fulfilling the mitzvah. We just
I see.
we just do it, the mitzvah. It's, right, the mitzvah is once a day. Some people say Kohen can do it 100 times a day and get a mitzvah, but the standard is you do it once a day. And so instead of doing shachar, you do a mincha, sort of a nod, but we still do it. We said Yeshayahu cannot take it away from the Torah, of course. Yes, good point. And I don't think the sages were saying Yeshayahu meant that, but it's sort of like a hinted at in the text. I will lift up. There's another change. You might notice, you might not notice, but maybe now you'll notice. You might hear it, you might not hear it. Some communities do it, some don't. And that is, it says in Eicha, which we recite on the night of Tisha B'Av, it's the poem about Tisha B'Av. It's part of the Tanakh, right? It said, one of the lines in there is, Satam Tfilati. Even though I turned to Hashem, He closed up my prayer. Meaning God didn't listen to me, right? The destruction came. I prayed that it shouldn't happen, and it happened anyways. So this idea that prayers are not accepted on Tisha B'Av, in some communities, they don't say the Kaddish Titkabal. Remember we talked about the different types of Kaddish? We said that there's a type which has an extra line in it, which says, may our prayers be accepted. And the Chazan says it once after Shacharit, once after Mincha, and once after Mariv. The Kaddish Titkabal is said by the Chazan. In Ashkenaz, some Ashkenazi communities, the Chazan says the Kaddish after Mariv, he leaves out the line Titkabal. Because our prayers are stopped up. Our prayers are not, how can we say, may our prayers be accepted? We're reading in the Eicha that our prayers are not accepted. And so, these sort of hints, and from the text, we take our cues from these various texts. Like we said at the top of the page, Karai la Moed, Tisha B'Av is called a Moed from Eicha, and when referring to the Birkat Kohanim, they took a hint from Yeshayahu about raising the hands, because the Kohanim raised their hands to give us a bracha. So, and this is a time where we assume that Hashem is not so happy with us. He's not turning towards us. I will turn my eyes away from you, and He's not accepting our prayers. We pray anyways. We can hope to break through the barriers, but there are some changes to the prayers. Okay? Seder? Other questions? It's a good question, Zachary. Okay, Shmuel, you read for us page 211, number 17.
Removing the curtain from the ark, Talit and Tefillin. We remove the curtain from the synagogue's ark prior to Ma'ariv, as it says, the Lord has done what He purposed, has carried out the decree of Yitzhak and Eicha 2:17. Using a play on words, the sages interpret the phrase Yitzhak to mean that God, as the Word, took His garment. This expresses the depth to which we have sunk since the temple was destroyed. We returned the curtain to its proper place before Mincha, from 59:19. Many have not Many have a custom not to wear a talit or tefillin on Shacharit, just as God, as it were, took his gown. You too refrain from wearing a talit. And just as the verse states, he has cast down from heaven to earth the majesty of Israel, two and more, which refers to God's tefillin. So we too refrain from crowning ourselves with tefillin. However, since most Rishonim maintain that the mitzvah of wearing tefillin applies in Shabbat, as it does on all other days, we wear a talit, tefillin, and mincha. We refrain from these mitzvot to Shacharit, because that is when our mourning and pain reach their peak, with the recitation of the kingdoms. By the time we pray at Mincha, however, we can already accept some consolation. Shulchan Aruch rules that we follow this practice from 55:1. All Ashkenazic communities as well as many Sephardi communities follow. However, one should wear his talit katan tzitzit from the beginning of the day as usual, since it is uncertain whether one should recite a berakah when being on tzitzit in the morning of Tisha B'Av. It is preferable to sleep or be on tzitzit on the night of Tisha B'Av. This way, one will not be obligated to recite the berakah in the morning. Only before mincha should one recite the berakah on wrapping himself in his talit.
Wow. Shmuel, you have tzitzit.
Yes.
Do you make a bracha on the tzitzit on a regular basis every day when you wear the tzitzit? I don't.
I do.
You do. That's fine.
I have a talit.
Because you don't have a talit. But I don't say it on my talit katan because I say it on my talit gadol. And I have in mind that my bracha on the talit gadol will also take care of my, it'll also take under its wing, it'll cover also my mitzvah of wearing the talit katan. But if you only wear a talit katan, you make a bracha on it. That's the common custom. Right? Do you have a talit gadol? Do you have a talit? Okay, one day. And tefillin also not. One day. So in the meantime, if you have a talit katan, you make a bracha on the talit katan, but there's a problem, he says. Some people say you shouldn't wear a talit in the morning. I don't wear a talit gadol in the morning. How am I going to do I make a bracha on the talit katan or not? So he suggests maybe one solution is to avoid the act of putting it on and wear it at night. The Arizal said we should wear a talit katan at night. Some special people do that. But most people don't. Some people have a special talit katan for nighttime, but most people just wear pajamas or because the tzitzit essentially is a mitzvah only in the daytime when you can see the tzitziot. There's a lot of debates in the Talmud and the Rishonim about exactly how it plays out when you wear. What if you wear day clothes at nighttime? Right? The Tosfot seems to say that because it's defined as clothes for the daytime, even if you wear it at night, you have a mitzvah. Other people say no, there's nighttime clothes and daytime clothes. If you wear nighttime clothes in the daytime, you don't say bracha because it's nighttime clothes. Tzitzit is associated with daytime, and so according to the Arizal, if you have a special talit katan, which is only for sleeping in, and you wear it only at night, for sure you don't make a bracha on it. Maybe even there's no mitzvah. According to everybody, there's no mitzvah on it. There's only a mitzvah to wear tzitzit at night, perhaps if it's a daytime clothing, that you wear it at night. We only make a bracha on daytime clothing when it's worn in the day. Everything else we don't make a bracha on. But anyways, if you want to put on your talit katan early, while it's still dark, so then you won't have the problem. Should I say a bracha? Shouldn't I say a bracha? You'll wait till mincha, and you'll say the bracha on the talit gadol when you put on your talit gadol. If you're not married yet, Ashkenazi custom is we wait until marriage to put on a talit gadol. It's a strange custom, but this is Ashkenazi custom. Sfardim, when you're bar mitzvah, you get your tefillin, you also get a talit. Some Sfardim even younger. I bought my children talitot when they were young, just because they were so cute. And they wanted to wear a talit. They want to be holy. I want to encourage them. So I bought them a talit, even though I'm Ashkenazi, and they're not even bar mitzvah. Forget about married. But it's cute. Sometimes they wore it for what passage do the little children get to say in shul? Sometimes they get to sing.
The Song of Glory.
Yeah, it's called. It starts with the words Anim Zmirot. Anim Zmirot. Sometimes the children lead the community saying Anim Zmirot. So they're leading the community, they have to wear a talit. So this way they have a talit anyways, that fits them, a nice cute little one. It's not that expensive. As a matter of fact, for last Afikoman, we had the kids, the grandchildren over, and I bought my grandchildren. 2 years old and 3 years old, I bought them a talit. I found the smallest one I could find. They were so happy because they want to be like the big people. Their parents, their Abba wears a talit. In any case, that's just practice. But when they become bar mitzvah, really, you should put on a talit. You should wear the it's a mitzvah when you become obligated in all the mitzvot. Some reason the Ashkenazim said, no, we have this mark of being married, some kind of a communal marker, and of course you wear tzitzit talit katan under your clothing. Most people, some Hasidic communities say they wear their talit gadol on top of their shirts. Have you seen people do that? Some Hasidim, they wear the talit on top of their shirt. That's their custom. But the standard halacha is it should be inside your shirt, except for the strings. The strings are out, but some people wear the strings inside too. Sephardim, Ovadia Yosef upheld the Sephardic custom is that the Sephardim put their tzitziot in. To wear your tzitzit out is considered to be too haughty, you're showing off. And the Sephardic custom until today, most Sephardi Jews do not wear their tzitziot out. Not the beged, not the garment, and not the fringes either. But the standard Ashkenazi halacha says that you should wear the tzitzit under your shirt, but the strings should show out so you can see them. But there were also some communities in Ashkenaz who didn't take out their tzitziot. The fringes were hidden as well. But every community keeps its custom, it's fine. In any case, what we're talking about here, that on Tisha B'Av, custom is that we only put on the tzitzit and the talit gadol and the tefillin in the afternoon. And what the question becomes, what about the bracha on the talit katan, which we do put on every day underneath our shirts when I get dressed? So it's a debate. I think that if you didn't sleep with your talit katan, you can say the bracha. The custom is that we do say a bracha. All day long, you're going to be putting on the talit katan without a bracha until mincha. It's one thing, in the morning, I get dressed, I don't say a bracha, because in a half an hour and 10 minutes, I'm going to be saying the bracha on the talit gadol. It's very close to each other. But now, all day long, I'll be wearing the talit katan without a bracha. It doesn't make much sense. And so, I think the standard is that we do say a bracha on the talit katan. Just like the unmarried Ashkenazim. They say a bracha on their talit katan every morning. And the kids that learn in school, many kindergartens, they have a little prayer service with the children. It's very cute. And they say, Ma Tovu, right? And they say, Shema Yisrael. They don't know what it means, but they're being indoctrinated. They also have, the custom is that we train our children to wear tzitzit. So part of the daily prayer service is that they all say the bracha. The problem is, in early childhood education, there's boys and girls together. What do the girls do? They don't wear tzitzit, only boys wear tzitzit. So they're trained not to. Sometimes some of the girls, what they do is and what happens if a boy didn't bring his tzitzit in the morning? So there are some kindergartens that actually have a basket with kippot, and a basket with small tzitziot, and they give them out. What happens if they don't have that? So sometimes the child will grab his friend's tzitzit and hold his friend's tzitzit and make the bracha. They think, oh, I just have to, the idea is to kiss the tzitzit, right? After you make the bracha, sometimes you kiss the tzitzit. So they say, oh, make the bracha and I'll kiss his tzitzit. No, of course, it's ridiculous. The bracha is, well, I'm wearing the tzitzit, not kissing it. Kissing somebody else's tzitzit doesn't cut it. But it's cute. It's cute. They do what they can. And of course, we're trying to train them to keep mitzvot. But when you get older, and even when you become bar mitzvah, you must wear tzitzit every day. It's a beautiful mitzvah. You don't really have to. It's not the same as tefillin that you have to put on every day. But because you don't have a four-cornered garment, usually. You only have to wear the fringes if you have a four-cornered garment. So we obligated ourselves because it's we cherish the mitzvot. If we can do a biblical mitzvah, so we wear special garments that have four corners, and so we can put the tzitzit on them. So that we want to do that mitzvah once you're bar mitzvah for sure. So from the age of bar mitzvah, if you're not married, you do that every day, and you make a bracha. You make a bracha. What's the bracha on when you put on the tzitzit? Al mitzvat tzitzit. But I don't say that so often because I do have a talit, and I don't say the bracha al mitzvat tzitzit. The bracha on the talit covers it, but the bracha talit is a little different. The formulation is not al mitzvat, but it's lehit atev. Lehit atev means to wrap, because talit gadol you wrap yourself in. So lehit atev betzitzit is the bracha. But on days when you don't wear the talit gadol, you can make the bracha al mitzvah tzitzit, just like all the bar mitzvah boys from the age of 13 to the age of 23, or 33, whenever you get married, or 43, God forbid, or 53. You can get married at 63. Whenever it is that you get married, that's when you start wearing the talit gadol, according to the Ashkenazi custom. I know some people who they didn't get married. They tried. They couldn't find at the age of 20, 30, 40, and they said, I'm not finding. What am I going to do? Not wear a talit for so long? I'm an adult. I run my own company. I'm a doctor. I'm a member of the community just like everybody else. Everybody else is wearing the talit. Just me, I'm going to be with no talit in shul. So they decided to break the Ashkenazi custom and wear a talit, even though they're not married, which is understandable. You know, I have no mitzvah to be embarrassed. If you want to fit in, you can wear a talit. Even an Ashkenazi can wear a talit. In the small, closed communities where this was a rule of law not to be played with, it might have been more problematic. But in today's age, when we have Sephardim and Ashkenazim, and we have little kids wearing talitot, I don't think there's a problem. In most of our communities, if an Ashkenazi wants to wear a talit, even if he's not married, he can. There's no prohibition. Yes?
About talit gadol.
Yeah.
Even someone came inside, even kippah or something like that, and then they don't know anything, but they give a kippah and then talit gadol. For example, they are Jews, but they want to recite or reading Torah. If someone gave him. For example, he was going to the reading Torah, reciting the bracha for reading Torah. And then, if someone give him, he recite the bracha before going up.
It's a good question. It's a good question. There's a.
If you're wearing, you usually say the bracha on the talit gadol, but if you bracha the talit gadol.
Yeah, talit gadol.
Right. It's not your talit. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your friend. It's your friend's talit. there's a debate in the Talmud whether talit she'ula, a borrowed talit, you make a bracha on it. Standard is we don't. You only make a bracha on your own talit. There is an exception though when it's a communal talit. You're part of the community, so that's what it's designed for whoever needs it. So when I take a talit from the community, I do make a bracha, because that's what it's for. But if you just borrow from your friend for a minute the talit, you don't make a bracha on it. It has to be yours. Now what you're saying is that sometimes people have rules of modesty, that what you have to dress modestly all the time, but especially when you're going to go read from the Torah. And someone, they want to give him an honor to read from the Torah, but he's wearing a tank top. It's not covering his sleeves. So there's some shuls where they say you're only allowed, there's some places you're not allowed to be a leader of the services or read from the Torah if you're not wearing a hat and a jacket. And so if they want to call you up, they'll give you a hat and jacket. In other places, you don't have to wear a hat and jacket, but you have to wear a shirt. Like there's some restaurants, they don't let you in unless you're wearing a shirt, right? So also for reading the Torah, some people say, well, you have to be dressed modestly. Well, what's dressed modestly? So it does depend on the community, but the assumption is you have to be wearing sleeves. So somebody's wearing a tank top, he's not no sleeves. So there's some synagogues where they actually give you sleeves. There's these little sleeves, you've seen that. They do that to cover your sleeves. But if you don't have sleeves, you have to have them made specially because, but if you don't have that, another solution is give the guy a talit. The talit, you wrap yourself with it, so it covers your arms. So you're all covered, you're tsanua, you're modest, and that's fine. The question is, do you make a bracha on it? Well, if it belongs to you, you make a bracha on it. If it belongs to your friend, you don't. If it belongs to the community, you do. So it really depends who it belongs to. And if you're using the talit, which of the community, which is designed for that, the Ashkenazi custom is, at least, that we do say a bracha. So if he knows enough, usually he doesn't know enough. He's not doesn't have his own talit, he's not dressed properly, doesn't have a kippah. Probably he didn't study in yeshiva. He probably didn't learn the laws of brachot either. So he won't know, but if he knew, proper thing to do, if it's a communal talit, is to say a bracha on it before you wear it. Yes?
For example, I can't wear
Talit gadol.
Inside the symptom, I had to keep outside, right?
That's the custom. Yeah.
And then when I came out, I decided the bracha again or.
Very good. So there's a difference in talit and tefillin. Tefillin, they're so holy. They have the names of God in them, right? There's names of God inside the tefillin. On the outside, there's letters from the name of God. They're holy objects. They're called kodesh. Like a Sefer Torah, tefillin, and mezuzot. They're holy objects. You're not allowed to wear them inside the sherutim. You're not allowed to bring them inside the sherutim even. And so, if you have to go to the bathroom and you're wearing your tefillin, you have to take them off. You must take them off and relieve yourself. So that's considered to be a separation, an interruption. And so when you come out and you put your tefillin on again, it's like a new session because the old session was interrupted. And so you do make a bracha on the tefillin. Tzitzit, however, is different. We wear our tzitzit into the sherutim. There's no prohibition of wearing tzitzit in the sherutim. You have to be careful they don't get dirty. I know. But what's the difference? Essentially, talit gadol is tzitzit. The mitzvah of tzitzit is not prohibited because it's your clothing. It's your clothing with fringes on it. So really, you should be allowed to wear your tzitzit and your talit gadol inside the sherutim. When you go to the sherutim, just make sure it doesn't get dirty. But there is a custom. The custom is we wear our tzitzit katan in the sherutim, but the talit gadol, we only wear it for that 1 hour when we pray, and it maybe is a little bit holier, so we don't take it inside the sherutim. When people go to the bathroom, you'll see on Shabbat, outside the bathroom a few talitot because somebody just took it off, comes back, he puts it on again. So here the halacha is we don't say a new bracha because essentially it's not needed interruption. The interruption is not essential. And therefore, the bracha you said before still is valid. And so when you re-put on your talit, you don't make another bracha. Tefillin, yes. Talit, no. Answers your question?
One more question. It's simple, but
It's a good
When
question.
we go to on the Sabbath, binding or
We're not allowed to tie on Shabbat, right?
for more be careful, I have to. I'm not just pulling hard, but for yeah.
You want to tie your tzitzit to each other so that they don't get dirty?
Yeah.
If it's a temporary type of tie, that's about the laws of Shabbat. You have to learn only if it's a permanent knot. Is it prohibited on Shabbat? Usually we translate that into a double knot. A double knot stays. But if it's just a single tie, or we do our shoes, right? We tie a bow. That's allowed on Shabbat. You tie your shoes with a bow, and then you untie them and tie them. That's fine. It's not considered to be tying on Shabbat. It's not a knot. Yeah. Says Ishmael.
Is belt considered?
No, that's not a knot. That's you're not creating a knot. It's just putting the peg into the belts are fine. Yes. What do you say?
But tightening, like these.
It's a problem because it's a double knot. It's a problem. Double tightening it is prohibited on Shabbat.
That's sort of like a habit for me.
Exactly. It's almost like somebody who's addicted to smoking. He's not allowed to smoke on Shabbat. 25 hours, he has to stop.
There's
Same thing.
There's like no hefsek. It's like right here.
You've got to train yourself. For 25 hours, don't tighten your knots on your tzitzit katan. Stop it. Now it's true, during the week it's a good habit, because if your knot unravels or becomes tangled, right, there's an acronym, they say tzitzit is the Rashi Tevot of tzaddik yafrid tzitziotav tamid. A righteous person should always untangle his tzitzit. So to be aware, the point of tzitzit is you should be aware. This should remind you of the mitzvot. So some people are, like the Muslims have these beads, and they're always handling them. So we don't do that. But some people, they like to play with their tzitzit, and maybe, hopefully, it's reminding them to do the mitzvot. But you're not allowed to violate the Shabbat just because you've got this strange habit of playing with your tzitzit. And even if it's a nice thing to do during the week, make sure they don't get tangled and they stay straight and that they stay tied. Of course, the tzitzit has to have the requisite 5 knots. But if it doesn't have all 5, it's still kosher. So on Shabbat, chill.
What melacha is being...
There's actually 39 categories of work that are prohibited on Shabbat, and one is actually called tying a knot. Tying a knot is one of the 39 categories. There's no debate about this one. Tying knots is forbidden on Shabbat. Yeah. Don't do it.
Even like if I do it, like an accent, chas v'shalom, there's also the opinion that from Rambam that it's only like professional knots and like a double knot on the tzitzit.
Does the Rambam say double knots you're not chayav? I don't remember it that way.
Everybody can tie a double knot. Everybody knows how to tie a double knot.
I don't know. I think it's pretty clear that even according to the Rambam, that tying a double knot is considered to be professional enough. Professional enough. I have to look. I have to re-study the laws of Shabbat in the Rambam. But as far as I remember it, I did pretty well on that test.
Okay,
I was just
I've only read the English translation.
Yeah. I think that even according to the Rambam, it's prohibited from the Torah law. But anyways, yeah, don't play with your tzitzit on Shabbat. Break the habit.
So, to roll...
Oh, that's okay. Rolling it around your finger. There's a custom that when you say Parshat Tzitzit, when you say the Shema, you roll the We're very particular about the customs. We even prepare ahead of time. Right? Well, before the Shema, we hold them in our left hand. Some people say even between the pinky and the rest of the fingers. And they say Shema Yisrael, right? You gather them up. When it says in the bracha before Shema, gather the exiles. So we gather our tzitziot. This is according to the Arizal, the Kabbalistic instructions. Anyways, there's quite a common custom that people gather up the tzitzit. I'm only gathering the front two. The Gra says you only do the front two. But it's quite common custom to take all four. You take all the four tzitziot, you hold them between your pinky and the other fingers, and then you say Shema Yisrael, V'ahavta, V'ayim Shamoa. And you get up to Vayomer, you put them into your right hand. Your right hand's the stronger hand. And you hold them in the right hand. And then when you're going to kiss them, when you say the word tzitzit 3 times, you say the word tzitzit. There's a custom to kiss the tzitzit. You have it wrapped around your index finger. This is the custom. And so you're not making a knot. You're just wrapping it around. There's no knot involved.
Only 3 times. You roll it one time.
Roll it. I don't know how it says. I don't know if it says how many times to wrap it. There's no law about that. I don't even know if the Arizal says how many times to wrap it. Never heard that.
Because when we make a long speech, so we use that too.
Oh, people play with the tzitzit all the time. When the rabbi's talking for too long. But anyways, there are many different customs. Anyways, how we manage with the tzitzit on Tisha B'Av is interesting. Okay, so take a look. The last paragraph on page 212. Okay, last paragraph on 212. Stephen, will you read for us? Some are careful.
Some are careful not to recite Shema without wearing the talit and tefillin. So they put them on at home before Shacharit, recite Shema, and then go to pray with the same congregation without wearing a talit and tefillin. Some Sephardic community have the custom to wear a talit and tefillin as Shacharit, as usual. Each community should continue following this custom.
Our custom is, most people's custom is that we don't wear the talit and tefillin in the morning, but in the afternoon, when we put on the tefillin and the talit for mincha, we also recite the Shema, because you should always be reciting the Shema with your tefillin on. So fine, there's no mitzvah to say Shema in the afternoon, but we want to say the Shema with the tefillin on. So we repeat the Shema an extra time on that day, on the day of Tisha B'Av, in the afternoon. We say the Shema in the morning without the tefillin.
Before Ashrei?
Yeah, usually you come a few moments early, and there's also another section that we're going to learn about soon. There's another section that we skip in the morning services, so we play catch-up in mincha time. So you have to make sure you come early for mincha. You got to put on your talit tefillin. You have to say Shema, and Shir Shal Yom is usually recited. Some people say the Pitum HaKtoret as well, Korbanot. So you have to be early for mincha on Tisha B'Av afternoon. Yes?
For 2 questions.
Yeah.
First one, when you are widow, you use tefillin?
Tefillin, of course. You're asking me about the talit. Talit, yes. Once you start, you get married the first time, you shouldn't stop. You don't stop. You don't have to take it off. If you get divorced or something, you get widowed, you keep wearing the talit. Yeah.
If you have a customs like Sephardi or Ashkenazi.
Yes, Ashkenazi. Okay.
And then you start to go. So you move the synagogue. So you change according to the.
This is a little more complicated. I think my father did that a little bit. He sort of went with the community. He grew up davening in an Ashkenaz community, and then he davened in a Sfard community when he moved to Israel. So he started davening Nusach Sfard, not Sephardi, but Sfard. But it's confusing because his family was a Hasidic family, so probably he should have been davening Nusach Sfard anyways. But he was interrupted by the Holocaust. He became a refugee at the age of 5. Never really had a proper bar mitzvah. When he was bar mitzvah, he was bar mitzvah when his father had already passed away, and he was essentially an orphan. And the people taking care of him were from Ashkenaz, from the yeshiva, the Meir yeshiva. The refugees from the Meir yeshiva were Ashkenazi, and they gave him Ashkenaz, and they taught him to put on tefillin like an Ashkenazi, and to pray like an Ashkenazi, and then the community was in Ashkenazi. So his family tradition was Sfard, but he got used to praying Ashkenaz. So he switched back to Sfard when he joined the Sfard community. Anyways, the standard though is if you have a tradition that's yours, you choose either Ashkenaz or Sfard or Sephardi or Yemenite, whatever it is, you have to join a community, and that becomes your nusach, your way of doing things, your language of formulations of the prayers. That's the siddur you use. When you happen to pray at somebody else's synagogue, so you don't do anything that's offensive to them, but privately you have your own nusach, your own formulation, and you say what you're used to saying, your family tradition. That's the standard. It becomes a question if you move to another city and there's only one synagogue and you want to blend in, can or should you change from your own tradition to somebody else's? So it's really impractical nowadays. It doesn't usually happen because we live in cities where there are many different communities. There's an Ashkenazi shul and there's a Sephardi shul. And it's quite common that somebody keeps, if he prays with a Sephardi Siddur, he'll keep praying with a Sephardi Siddur, even if he's participating in an Ashkenazi minyan. Because who knows, now you're at an Ashkenazi minyan. Next week, you're going to find the rabbi you like in the Ashkenazi shul, and you'll be back in this. What are you going to change your speech, the way you say the prayers every week or every other week because of where you're participating? So there should be an anchor, a core, which is what you consider to be your custom. If you convert, and you converted in a community which was Ashkenazi, so that becomes your custom. Even if you go pray with the Sephardim, you keep your Ashkenazi customs. There's not that many differences. I always say it's a few words here, a few words there. It's no big deal. You should pray according to your custom. And then when you leave that synagogue, you'll go back to the Ashkenazim. You'll be more comfortable and you're praying in with your custom. But
sometimes difficult if you go to
if you go to
Kabbalistic one.
So it's interesting, in the Kabbalistic yeshivot, they have their own nusach.
Yeah.
Everybody's off. If you choose to be a Kabbalist, you follow the Kabbalistic customs. But again, it's not like you're changing day by day. You join the community, you should join for good. It should be your custom. It does happen. Maybe you could say somebody who becomes a Kabbalist, it's like he's going to a new town and he's taking upon all the customs of that town. It could be. There are changes which are made. Like I said, my father changed, but that's maybe a little bit more unique. We're in an age where communities are mixing with each other. Some shuls, you have Shachrit will be Ashkenazi, Mincha will be Sephardi, and Mariv will be Yemenite.
Yeah.
The same shul, the same community, because we live in an age of ingathering of the exiles, and they said the rule is whoever leads the services gets to decide. It can be confusing, but it can work. A lot of communities make it work that way. Everybody feels comfortable to lead the services.
In that situation, doesn't it make sense just to follow what's being led?
So for some matters, like communal matters, like when they say the kedusha, you're going to join their kedusha no matter what. whether, and the things that are said out loud should be said out loud according to what most people are saying. You can't have people saying different words together, it's just confusing. So you basically have to learn how to navigate, if you have such a community, what's going to be different, because the Chazan is from a different community. But when you say your silent prayers, you stick to your own. That's what you're used to, that's what you're training to do. And maybe you have tunes associated with it, maybe you have, it helps your concentration when you say the same words all the time, when you say your private prayers. You say the communal prayers, so you have to join the community. And, usually it's just a question of changing the order. Do you say Hodu before Baruch Shamar, or do you say Hodu after Baruch Shamar? Big deal. You can, you don't have to say it together with the Chazan. So say it on your own, in the right order, which is according to you. There's different ways of working it, but it's good to have your Siddur and get used to, especially if you're new to this, to stick with your text, and that way you get confused much less. If you start playing around and changing your text according to where you happen to be, I think you'll just be more confused.
Unless it's somebody says, oh yes, that's Nazi.
You feel out of place? You feel out of place if you're doing a different, using a different Siddur? You don't have to embarrass yourself. Okay, it shouldn't embarrass anybody. It's his custom. Yeah. He's doing what he should do. He should be saying his custom. It doesn't. They shouldn't expect everybody to be like them. What they're gonna say? Oh, what are you doing? They laugh at you for being Ashkenazi. That's the way you were born. That's the way community that you joined. It's nothing to laugh at.
I can tell you what happened in Yeshiva. We Ashkenazi. I say, but I'm black. The guy is
Some people assume that everybody has to practice exactly like they practice. And they like to tell you what to do. You should be aware of that. I think it's more of a cultural thing than it is a religious thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you go on the bus and you see that a mother with a baby, and the baby starts to crying, so she'll be getting instructions from everybody on the bus. You should give him a sweater. You should take off his sweater. No, give him a drink. Everybody tells her what to do. She's the mother. She knows what to do. It's a cultural thing. It's a same thing in the shul. Sometimes people will say, you should be wrapping tefillin a different way. You should be praying that way. Oh, take your talit on, off. Stand up. Why don't you standing up? Everybody it's a cultural thing. People tell you what to do. You have to have thick skin a little bit. Some synagogues are more difficult than others. Some are, there's different kinds. Sometimes they mean well, even though for you it could be confusing or you feel bad. They mean well and try to be forgiving if someone oversteps his place. Also, people like to be knowledgeable, right? So everybody, when they see somebody who's a beginner, I've been doing this for so many years. I'm like the chief rabbi. I should be telling him what he should be doing because he's just been Jewish maybe one day more than you. But it's human nature. Human nature. But of course, we should have humility. And unless you know for sure that somebody would be happy to get some instruction, some guidance, some direction, because he is new and he'd be happy to show him where the place is, that can happen. It's a very nice thing to do, to show someone who needs the place. But sometimes he could be pushy and he doesn't need it and he wants to be on his own. It's hard to navigate. It's hard to know when to say something, when not to, for yourself and for others. So Bezrat Hashem will survive the various communities that the various shuls that we go to, okay? Beseder. We'll stop here for today. We're going to continue and finish off the laws of Tisha B'Av tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.